Clay's Corner Dynasty Running Back Landscape Review. I am Russell Clay. I am a staff writer over at fantasyguru.com. And today we're going to be reviewing what the running back landscape looks like for Dynasty Leagues and how we should be going about evaluating it. We did quarterbacks last week. If you haven't checked out that video, I definitely suggest doing so. But yeah, today's going to be a good one, and hopefully you guys enjoy it and get some value out of it. If you do get some value out of it, please give this video a like and also subscribe to the channel. And yeah, so let's fire away. All right, so here we are. We have quite a bit to look at here. The running back landscape is a vast situation at this point in things. And, you know, I do think we're in a good spot at running back, but certainly not a great spot. And certainly not, 2018, 2019, and 2020 was really an apex for us as far as the running back landscape was concerned. Guys like Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey were hitting their ceiling and were very young. They were hitting their ceiling from a season-long standpoint, putting up high-end RB1 numbers, and they were healthy, and they were young. And now we're getting this mix of Barkley and McCaffrey are getting banged up. Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb are hitting their middle ages. And then this young tier of running backs hasn't really come to fruition other than, say, Najee Harris and Jonathan Taylor. So, overall, I think we're in a good spot. And by the way, these are the Fantasy Guru Dynasty rankings. If you haven't checked these out yet, I definitely suggest doing so. But let's start off with some optimism here. Jonathan Taylor, 23 years old. He just turned 23, so he'll be 23 all next year. Age 21, age 22 seasons, absolutely dominant. 3,600 yards from scrimmage in his first 2 years. Is young, has not dealt with any serious injury concerns, and has already produced, 2 RB1 seasons. So we're in about the range where Taylor's going to be at just about as valuable as possible. And when I think of guys over the last decade in terms of value, Saquon Barkley after his rookie season, I would probably grade him 100 as well. McCaffrey maybe after his second or third year could have probably gotten into that range too. But this is pretty rarefied air here. Maybe Adrian Peterson in the late 2000s. When he was, putting up his huge numbers. This is a pretty rare guy here. We don't get to see this very often. Also, Ezekiel Elliott, though I do like Taylor more than Elliott, and I think Taylor's shown more upside. So when you look at this, and this is, again, why I like ratings over rankings, yes, Saquon Barkley is my RB2, but he is nowhere close to Jonathan Taylor in terms of value right now. That's a totally different ball game. Not only is Taylor young, not only is he putting up the elite production, but he also had an elite production profile at Wisconsin, tested out as an incredibly athletic running back. This guy is everything. He's 5'10", 230. He checks every single box. And he even, became more of a receiving threat this year. So, not that much more of a receiving threat. I shouldn't say that. But I think the concerns out of Wisconsin were, he isn't going to be a big receiver. And he's clearly squelched that in his first 2 years. So I'm all in. I think That's a pretty easy take there. I think everyone's all in. And that's also the other thing, right? The market value is high. Everyone's in on Jonathan Taylor. I bet he has just about 100% approval rating. And so that's how he gets that rating. There's no one close to him right now. It's Jonathan Taylor and then a huge, huge gap. And then we have this tier. Saquon, Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift, Christian McCaffrey. So we have McCaffrey and Barkley, who are moving into the middle ages of their career. McCaffrey is a very complicated equation right now because he's provided us with immense production, and even when he's played over the last 2 years, those 10 games, he's been very productive. 1,200 yards and eight touchdowns in those games he's played, 1,100 and 50 and 8 touchdowns in those 10 games, which he's left, early in a large majority of them. So, this is a tough one. People who have him on their dynasty rosters have been burned 2 years in a row. Pretty brutal, especially for a guy if you drafted him number 1 overall in your startup. It's why in Superflex you really want to prioritize quarterback over running back. But when you're looking at this, it's pretty ugly. I'm still willing to pay up for Christian McCaffrey. I'm still willing to pay up for Saquon Barkley, but they're certainly much less expensive than they were a couple years ago, which I kind of like. So a little buy the dip here on these guys after 2 injury-filled seasons, but there's also a reason why you can buy the dip on them. So at this point, I'm not really talking to anyone who hasn't made up their mind on these 2 players. If you're out on Saquon and McCaffrey, you're out, and you probably don't have them on any rosters and are probably happy to have that situation. But for those that are a little more daring, I think there's upside here. Brian Daboll in New York finally going to get some competent coaching for Saquon for the first time in his career. And that's why I have these guys here. 2,000 yards from scrimmage upside with these guys. I know they're getting into the middle ages, but they also, because of these injuries, they haven't really sustained a lot of touches. So, again, your mind's made up with Saquon and McCaffrey after these last 2 years. Either you're buying them for the next year or so, or you're not, or you're totally out, and I can respect that. I'm in on Saquon. I'm going to continue buying. I think he's the Bo Jackson of this generation, and I still believe he's shown enough as an NFL player to bear that out, and if he gets a good supporting cast, I think we could easily see another 2,000 yards from scrimmage season. But, if you want to go with other guys in this tier, the Najee Harrises of the world, the DeAndre Swifts of this world, I think they've shown enough to where that's a decent place to get off the boat if you're not on Saquon anymore. So that's how I'm looking at that. I think, again, 2 years ago, Saquon and McCaffrey were probably both 100s for me. So it's just a total shift to I like them, but I also understand that. Then we kind of get into this weird tier of 2017 guys and 2020 guys. And I want to talk about 2017. I feel like I talk about this so often, but these guys have not really fallen off. I kind of thought we were going to see more of this draft class falling off, but we haven't really seen it yet. Chris Carson, Kareem Hunt, and McCaffrey have sort of, slowed down. Marlon Mack, Wayne Gallman are, still kind of in the fold here, but Fournette, Aaron Jones, Kamara, Mixon, Cook, we haven't seen the elite seasons, and maybe that is the first sign that this class is finally going to show some regression here. But man, James Conner came back with vengeance on that Cardinals team, scoring what, 12, 15, 20 touchdowns total. So pretty unreal year and bounce back for him. This class is going to be shifting into their mid to late 20s over the next couple years, and rarely do we see running back classes sustain themselves that late. Fournette had a nice comeback this year with an RB1 finish. So while McCaffrey, Hunt, and Carson kind of fell off this year, we saw Fournette and James Conner kind of replace them. Kamara fell off this year. Mixon had, a fantastic fantasy season. Cook didn't produce an elite year, but he was solid. So I have growing concerns about how sustainable this infrastructure is here in this running back class. I mean, I keep saying it, and this year they kind of survived it again, but we're going to see these guys fall off. And I don't know when that's going to be, and maybe this class is just the outlier and they don't fall off. But eventually, injuries, team situations, and all that are going to add up. And, we're seeing bits and pieces of that. Kamara lost Breeze. McCaffrey got injured. Hunt had to go sit behind Nick Chubb. Chris Carson lost his full season to a neck injury. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon on the mend here. So, I mean, things are happening, but these guys are still sustaining RB1 seasons. It's pretty miraculous to watch. So, if you have these guys, I mean, I don't know how much of a sell high you can get at this point, but the iceberg is tipping here. We're moving on. This is gonna be year 6 next year. 2022. So I have growing concerns about this entire group of players. So just keep that in mind. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, we really haven't gotten very good results from this very good 2021 or 2020 running back class. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys go in the top 3 rounds, including 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 running backs go to very good teams. What we're seeing now is Cam Akers really come into his own as a featured back for the Rams in the playoffs, but he did not get that production at all this year due to that torn Achilles. So we lost a full year of Cam Akers. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been dealing with injuries and also sort of mediocre production. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Maybe not as talented as the first-round pick he was built out to be. And also, Dobbins we lost for the year. Dillon is behind Aaron Jones. We have gotten Jonathan Taylor and Antonio Gibson. We got DeAndre Swift after a mostly lost rookie year. So I feel like this is where we could see some surprising results next year in 2022. J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers, probably not sneaking up on anyone at this point, but I think this is a tier of running back as those 2017, 2018 running backs start to fall off. I think we could see this running back class start to take off and take over the running back landscape. At least that's what we'll need. Otherwise, if this class continues to falter, we're going to run into a situation where these older running backs are starting to fall off. No one's really pushing up there, and we're just going to have Jonathan Taylor in a big tier all by himself, as we already do now, but it's going to get even bigger. So we're in flux right now, and there's a really bad running back class incoming in 2022. I don't see much in terms of high-end dynasty running backs from the 2022 class, other than Breece Hall. Iowa State running back. I think we could see, some high-end years out of him, but that's kind of where we're at right now. And then we have a lot of mid-tier guys, the Derrick Henrys of the world, the Ezekiel Elliott's of the world. I mentioned Aaron Jones, James Robinson with his torn Achilles. So, Rashad Penny, you never know. So we got a lot of work to do this summer on what's going to happen here. We got to really hone in. I'll probably recalibrate these, just about every week as we head in towards the offseason. And I think we will get a lot of answers once the NFL draft hits and after free agency with these 2017 and 2018 classes, because a lot of these guys are going to be hired guns from now on. We've seen Leonard Fournette kind of fit into that hired gun role. Austin Eckler, is also in that class, going to be 27. Same with Dalvin Cook. So very curious how the next couple years go for this running back class, but that is a review. That is what we're kind of looking at right now over at Fantasy Guru. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. And as always, always open to content suggestions. Hit up my Twitter at Russell J. Clay. But as mentioned, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. And if you liked what you heard here, feel free to give this video a like and also subscribe. So I thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you on the other side.